Okay, we are back for the third round of day 2. This time we're going to be watching Sindikkat against Rolero. I guess let's just hop right into the deck lists. So, I guess we can start off with Rolero since we've taken a look at Syndicat's lists already. We got Jackpot, Inspired Zeal, Tactical Decision, and Force of Nature for the lineup here. Starting us off with the Jackpot, though, I can't imagine we're going to be seeing it, as Sindikkat has been banned all day from what we've seen. But Professor, Jacques, Ziggy, playing Sunset Wanderers, so not going the Devotion route for Jackpot. Sort of unusual. Usually if you're seeing Jackpot, you're seeing a Devotion list, but he's choosing to break it here, I think, just for Sunset Wanderers. I'm not seeing any other neutral cards in the list.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it, but, you lose out on the Mutants Makers, but you know what you get? You get a couple of Beggars, mate! So how bad could it really be? I love the Beggars, I have to say, especially with Caesar. I do actually think they're genuinely really underrated. The second one's what, Profit 6, I think you get? So you can get a lot of value off Caesar if you get your Beggars to stick on the board. Often you see them with like Passy, but yeah, it's kind of cool to see them. Obviously, if you do play Devotion, they're just overshadowed by Mutants Makers, and there's obviously many very good 4 provision cards. But I have to say, like, the 4P cards from Rolero's deck look really, really nice. He's got the double Trafficker, the double Fist deck. He's got Peach's Tax Collector, which I always think should be in most of these decks. And okay, you don't have Mutants Maker, but you still got the Beggars. You've got the Smuggle, which gives you the Siggy tag, but yeah, it's probably going to be banned, isn't it? To be honest.
Probably. Spending too much time on Syndicate. Deck that's probably not going to matter. Next up, we got Inspired Zeal, a deck that has been mattering quite a bit. We got no Siege, just pure mid-range Inspired Zeal here for the duels. Going to be using that leader for Anses, Seltkirk, and whatever Shani reses most likely. But
It's quite similar to the Shaggy deck, isn't it?
very similar to the Shaggy deck. Just looks like pretty fair NR. I think a different configuration in the bronzes than Shaggy had. I know he had a lot more one-ofs, but
yeah, he's also playing the War Chariot, which we mentioned before with the Winch. So he's also got the Winch, but rather than it just being Shani, War Chariot now does have a cooldown. So if you've got a Crew Pocket, this gives bleeding to a card, 4 bleeding, and moves it. And it's cooldown 4, I think it is. So yeah, the Winch can get you like the extra 4 bleeding and also the extra movement if that's relevant. I'm not sure there's an abundance of things that you need to move, but for Northern Realms to have movement does then therefore give you an answer to defenders. So pretty nice. I really like the inclusion of War Chariot.
yeah, for sure. War Chariot. Playing both is just like a solid value card, as well as playing that extra avenue to have some movement for interaction. Just, it does matter. Next up, we got Tactical Decision. We got the mid-range deck that was really popular in the top 16 qualifiers, but I haven't really seen a whole lot of it since then. Plays Sunset Wanderers, plays Avalok and Marl, as well as a soldier package to pair with the Ramon. Big on the poisons, fangs, and cupbearer in the deck. Sort of looks like a Masquerade Ball deck without Masquerade Ball, cutting the Masquerade Ball for cards like Marl, Avalok, and the soldiers. And obviously playing Tactical Decision as well, because it pairs nicely with Snowdrop and Sunset Wanderers, and obviously Mage Assassin's a very good card.
Yeah, it's a deck that it's very mid-range, as you say, which basically just means what are the best cards for their provision cost. So Sunset Wanderers, Avalak being 12 points is pretty good. Morale synergizing with your Cupbearers and Fangs. Fangs is just such a good 4 provision card, and Cupbearer is great with the Assimilate that you do already have with Brathens. While also being a Purify option, which is nice when you're playing Invo. And also Ramon as well, like the Ramon having 2 locks. Obviously, we know how good Brathens is. Yeah, like every card, Ivar too, like every card in this deck is just very good for its provision cost, and that's kind of the philosophy behind this build.
Yep, for sure. And lastly, we got Force of Nature. Once again, a slightly different build than some of the other ones we've seen. This one playing Sunset Wanderers and Axie. No Heatwave in this list. So needing to cut the defender in order to make room for that. Maybe struggles a little bit in the Skellige matchup because of that, but Sunset Wanderers, very powerful card. Very good for being able to get round control as well. Like, a lot of the time you're going to be pulling it in round 1, but when there's 6 points of the difference between your deck that wants to have a specific round 3 getting round control and not, you don't really mind that your Wanderers is a little bit worse than your opponents.
You see that 4 provision card trying that as well. There's only one Bruxer because there's been room for the Elder Bear. Let's go. Very excited to see the Elder Bear in action.
Gotta play the Elder
I reckon
Bear.
that's going to be the difference between a win or a loss, this Elder Bear. It's going to bring it home for Rolero.
That's a bold prediction, but I hope that it's true. I hope that it's true. Okay, let's move on to his opponent's deck list. We're going to be watching Sindikkat again, who is bringing Force of Nature, Inspired Zeal, Line Pockets, and Reckless Flurry. Again, a bit of a different Force of Nature take than his opponent, choosing to play Heatwave instead of Axie and Defender instead of Sunset Wanderers.
Yeah, he's also got the Purifying Queen of the Night, which means in theory should be better into full test decks than a deck that doesn't have this Purify. Otherwise, you're just not really. You don't have an efficient answer to full test, particularly if they play Kud deck where they can Purify a lock. Yeah, I mean he's got the double Brook, so no Elder Bear here. So let's be honest, I think Syndicate is screwed, mate. Imagine like not playing an Elder Bear. He's just at a severe disadvantage.
I mean, one player's not playing Elderbear, one player's not playing Sunset Wanderers. I don't know. I don't know. They're close. They're close. Next up, we got Inspired Zeal, the non-devotion list, going for Megascopes, Peller, Neuromancy, and Heatwave as all things that break the devotion. Also got a Squirrel jammed in there as well. And Neuromancy just giving the deck a few more options, lets it play its Amphibious Assaults a little bit more aggressively, as well as have more reliable opening hands. Cursed Scroll available, probably going to be running this out on Blue Coin, making sure that he draws his Roche plus Defender in round 1 to go with the King Foltest. Couldn't find the card. Forgot its name for a moment, but yeah, this NR deck, more popular a couple seasons ago. I think a lot of people have moved on to the Siege deck, but Sindikkat continuing to play this variant. Any thoughts on it?
Man, Siege has gone out of fashion from last time I was watching. I feel like I missed one weekend and Siege has disappeared from these decks, which is really interesting. Most of them still playing the Ballistas, this one isn't. Obviously, we've seen Red Rain, as I mentioned, sort of like last month, he was playing a version similar to this with the Erland. And yeah, I mean, I really like the Megascope deck. The fact you get the Megascopes of Commandos, the Aneromancy for consistency. On ladder, I think it makes a ton of sense again. With the Cursed Scroll, you are maybe sacrificing points, but do you really need points when the deck is this good and it's this consistent? Maybe not. Maybe you just don't need the points, you just need the consistency.
Yep, that is always the question of when do you want to make those trade-offs. Cards like Aneromancy and Cursed Scroll do cost you points, but overall, the consistency of being able to more reliably pull off your game plan is seen as worth it. Moving on,
you also get the Squirrel, right, and the Pella, like, which is no joke. Like Squirrel in a mirror matchup, for example, on an assault, like if your opponent's taking that like assault route, where as you've mentioned, a lot of the time you're. Oh, I think I'm lagging out.
You're fine.
Okay. I'm fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Just my paranoia, but yeah, having the Purify as well. Something we know Northern Realm struggles with. You'd much rather play a Pella for a Purify than a War Chariot because War Chariot's just pretty expensive.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, moving on to Lined Pockets again. Probably not going to be seeing this, but we got Witchfinder, we got Horson, we got Freak Show, we got Tunnel Drill, we got all the usual suspects.
No Siggy is like the card. You normally just have to pick one gold card you don't play. Some people go Philippa, but no Siggy in this one. Also no Jacques, right? There's a couple with Witchfinder being added.
Yep. This one choosing to go Devotion instead of non-Devotion, but it's all Line Pockets goodness. Probably going to get banned. Likely won't see it. Moving on, we got Reckless Flurry. Which was this one? The single Greatsword double Savage Bear list?
Yeah,
Savage Bear looked pretty good in the last set we just watched. Being that 8-point card in round 3.
Especially if you are going that double Scald as well, you've mentioned before. Like, what are you discarding at times?
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I mean, Scald is like a pretty good card. It's like the best dry pass card you could really ask for and stuff like that. But no Maxi, which...
Yeah. That seems crazy to me, honestly. I've always thought Maxi was really important in this deck, just for making sure you don't brick your Bear Witchers. And we did see him get punished a little bit for that in, I think, Game 4 of last series. Managed to dodge the brick in Game 5, but it was scary.
I mean, like, obviously, okay, you're not playing Portal, so that's like a real, like, you have to play a Maxi with Portal, because if your Portal's stuck at the bottom, if you've not got Sage, but I mean, she's proactive. She's only 2 points worse than Raging Bear. Okay, you can't Megascope Maxi, unfortunately. But she's kind of just what the deck wants, really.
Yeah, I mean, if you're trimming on Greatswords, it is sort of hard to justify getting rid of another Megascope target. Like, this deck's only playing 2 Bear Witchers, 1 Raging Bear, Greatsword, and the Heron Caduc, with no portal to reliably get you at least a 7 Megascope. There is some cost to that.
Yeah, and it's just difficult to fit everything. If you want to play the Savage Bears, which we just said are good, you want to play double Scald. You don't really want to not play a single Gutting Slash, because then your opponent can, in an open deck list format, just not respect the removal. we've seen a few times today when people were playing against Shaggy with his devotion deck that had no removal. You know that, so you don't have to respect any removal. You can leave your Foltest, for example, and okay, there's other removal threats, but certainly in round one, you just want to have that like 4 damage threat. I think.
Indeed,
Makes
indeed,
sense to
indeed.
include on.
Yeah, it looks like
It's
we
one
are.
thing that I've
Hmm?
kind of find interesting with like these open deck list decks. It is a single bit of removal like threat can make such a big difference. A card like Parasite, often at times it's actually just the threat of Parasite which is giving you value even if you don't necessarily have it in hand because people have to respect it. Might force them to play like make their sequencing a little bit awkward and things like that.
Yeah, at the same time, the first piece of removal is often the worst thing you can be doing against decks that have a defender, too. Because now that piece of removal is either forced to play on their defender, which they're expecting to get removed anyway, or worse, you're just hitting armor with it. That's not something you ever want to have to do. Especially with Parasite, right? Parasite on Cave Troll is
Yeah.
a very embarrassing card.
Yeah.
Usually just end up playing it for boost 6. But yeah, still waiting for the game invites to go out.
Yeah, just a bit of an update. Sindikkat had
Uh-oh.
dipped for a bit, but he's returned. He was just catching himself a little break.
Okay, do we have the bans?
I'm not sure we do.
Yeah, I'm not
But
seeing it.
it means we've got time to talk about expansion. So we've talked about it a little bit already. We've sort of talked about Northern Realms a fair bit. We've talked about Syndicate. Well, I haven't talked about
Haven't
Syndicate. We've
talked
just
about
had a Syndicate reveal. We've talked about Skellige and Skellige. What do you think about Nilfgaard?
I don't think about Nilfgaard at all. I don't know. The Nilfgaard cards aren't doing anything for me. I think they're good. I think Furcart and Terra Nova are both totally reasonable cards. I think the 4 provision Spying card is pretty sweet as well. But I don't know. Nothing's really doesn't spark anything in me. You know.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what the one other card is. They're the
It's the
three I
Master
can think of.
Puppets.
Right. Yes. That card could be pretty bloody scary again. I imagine you're playing like a Svalbard priest and that gets seized.
Yeah.
Jeez, that would be painful. That is
Witch Apprentice.
like, but yeah, it's like 30 points plus of tempo. You can mega scope this thing as well, right? And if your opponent's row is full, you can it won't even go to your opponent's side. Master of Puppets, I think, could be. I think I'm gonna build like an all-in abuse like Idara and mega scope. So I've got a 1 point Master of Puppets. But I guess the more you include, the worse they become as well, though.
Yeah, there's like one turn that you really want to play it. Otherwise, your opponent gets to like flip it back. It's kind of weird to play before round 3, really. Maybe in round 2 if you can get a. I don't know. I don't know. It's a weird card. It's a weird card.
I think it's in round 2. Like if your opponent's trying to bleed you,
Yeah.
they can obviously play around it because it's just bronze cards, right? So you just try not to go to. It's not that difficult to play around, but it's also in an enslaved deck. It's kind of like a tool punish that you're lacking otherwise. And again, if you can fill your opponent's row, then Master of Puppets is going nowhere. So that definitely is going to help the card out a lot. But yeah, I think Furcat is actually probably my favorite card. Definitely seems like it could brick a little bit, but Double Maddock is a deck that it makes sense in. Mill, you could play it in. Hyper Thin.
Yeah, I
It's
agree. There's a
obviously
lot
got
of
the
decks that
Spy
probably
synergy as well.
want it. It's just, I don't know. It's not the kind of card that's exciting. It just goes in. It's
Yeah.
sort of like a roach. You don't really think about it. It's either good or it's
You're,
not good. I don't think there's a whole lot about it.
you seem like the man that would be able to answer my question on how it will work with Invo. So I've had a bit of a debate with, well, people in my chat. There's option 1, you play Furcat into Invo, and then you draw the card you Invo. Or there's option 2, you play
You do
Furcat,
not
you
draw the
draw
card
a
you
card
invo.
in Invo.
That was confirmed
Right.
by the devs.
That's what I thought the situation was, yeah.
Yeah. Looks like both syndicates were banned once again. Invites are out, so
Yes, just got it.
make sure you pick that up.
Yeah, and of course, there's a new journey as well on Tuesday, so all sorts going on. Really excited for
Yeah,
that
new
as well.
patch, new journey, new expansion. A lot going on this week in Gwent for sure.
Yeah, it's just nice to have these sorts of things to look forward to. I think, like, even though I've not been enjoying playing as much this month as I have in previous months, the fact that you know that in just a week or so you've got a whole like new drop of cards and all that sort of stuff, it's makes it a lot easier to sort of be like, oh, okay, cool. Like, imagine we had an expansion and I was hating life, and then you got to wait 6 months. That would not be the one. So, and I have to say, as much as I haven't enjoyed playing as much this month compared to previous months, I'm really enjoying watching. Like these series we've watched today have been bloody brilliant. I think it's just the hipster in me. I just like playing hipster decks, and it's been a bit of a struggle. Apart the mill novelty has run dry. I've played like over 200 games, but I'm finally sick of it, and I just need a new toy to play with.
Yep, I'm just gonna ban some dude from my chat for being a dick to the tournament organizers. They're doing their best. There's a lot going on. They gotta rope all the players together. The players gotta accept invites. The way you gotta make this work in the tournament platform is kind of a pain, too. They have to make a separate tournament for every match that they want to run, because you can't trust the tournament platform to run things correctly. I think they're still doing that. Maybe they're not, but I know they were doing that for the Swiss portion.
Yeah, I mean, surely it's better us just talking and having a chat anyway than watching the same thing on repeat. But
yeah, apparently we're supposed to just keep playing the ad break until the match starts, and that would be better.
Yeah, we also... Sindikkat was just a little bit late to the party, but invites are out. We're not stalling. We're just waiting for the players to queue their decks. And yeah, obviously, this is going to be the last series of the day, I do believe, within 3 each. And both these players undefeated. Not sure about the path that one of our players has had, but we know Sindikkat obviously has just beaten Shaggy, so you could argue is maybe the favourite to take it all now. I know Poisson still knocking around. There is a losers bracket, guys, as well, don't forget. But here we go. We're about to get started. We're about to see which deck each player is starting this series off with. Northern Realms on blue is often the theme we see the blue coin player going for to start off the series.
Yep, let's see. We do see NR on blue up against Rolero's Tactical Decision. This was the mid-range deck for Rolero, right? So Marl and Ramon, and yep, there we go. Commandos for Sindikkat. Going for the non-devotion list. He's got Megascopes. He's got the Cursed Scroll to fix his hand. Let's see what he's got. So he's already got Full Test. He's already got Defender. Has Commando, so doesn't necessarily need the Roche.
Rolero needs a bit of a miracle with his hand. Finds a lock. That's really important. He needs the Purifier or the Invo. He's now got 2 locks by drawing this 1 lock because of Ramon. But he needs to get the answer to the Defender. Doesn't find it. Can obviously kill it with Morale. So I guess it's not the end of the world. But you'd rather just be purifying it, I would imagine. Maybe just poisoning it with Morale do the trick. Obviously Morale can be killed though.
Yep. Let's see what Sindikkat wants to do here. Tons of answers for Defender in the list, but he is going to run it out anyway. Gonna see if poisons are what he wants to do. I think that's going to be what it has to be, but there is a boiling oil, and I'm not seeing a second poison.
The Morale, right? If it's not answered, but
yeah, this is the boiling oil though.
Yeah, I mean the one good thing about that is if your opponent's playing the boiling oil, it sort of opens up the pass again. True. We've sort of seen it again where you can pass a little bit sooner. As the Full Test player, you really want your 3 cards to be Defender, Commando, Full Test, right?
Yeah.
So if you're playing the boiling oil, you're just giving your opponent that chance to pass a little bit sooner, which would essentially give them a little bit of extra carryover. But yeah, Sindikkat seeing the Morale probably has a read. There's no Purifier, no Invo, but maybe also might just be expecting like the Cupbearer or the Fangs to just finish the poison, and there is the oil.
Yep. He's gonna take that oil, kill the Marl, deny the second poison. No poison in hand for Rolero. No answers to this Defender, but there is that pass button, as you said, going to be able to prevent the Full Test from making too many copies. As Rolero's just going to play Viper Witcher at him.
Equally, you're forced to pass. You don't really have much choice, right?
Exactly.
You're just succumbing to the Full Test and accepting that this card is just completely destroying you.
It's not what you want to do, but sometimes it's what you have to do. And there's still going to be so many commandos out of this. He doesn't have to click on this. Full Test comes down, immediately puts 1 in deck. Then if Rolero passes, Full Test puts another 1 in deck, and there's going to be 3 commandos in deck to go with the Roche Merciless. Ugh.
Yeah, and I mean, a big reason you play the Purify cards, the Poisons, is so that you can get through this Defender, and then you can either Invo or lock the Full Test. Many answers to this Defender, but for Rolero, it didn't quite work out for him. Just going to take an emissary there, and would probably he's kind of just forced to take the pass, you would imagine, once Foltest hits the board. And yeah, again, this is a big thing with Foltest. The fact that you don't have to click the commandos is what makes this card even more scary in round 1, because it's not just the threat of the Pavetta carryover, it's the threat of just actually playing commandos in round 2 and then Pavettering them for round 3.
There's a cheeky line for Rolero. He could go Brothans and try to break it up, but there's 2 Siege Ladders available for Sindikkat that will re-enable that full test if that is what he decides to go for. He's thinking about it, though. Looks like he's mousing over... just mousing over random stuff. Yep, decides to take the pass. Gonna be a bunch of commandos in deck, but at least the full test has been dealt with.
Yeah, at least the morale forcing that boiling oil. He's not going to want to pass at 8 cards. He's always going to pass at 7. So the boiling oil on the morale, while his morale didn't play for many points, it did kind of play for 4 carryover, denying like that extra commando. You could also argue it's 8 carryover because it's like an extra commando for round 3 as well, right? In fact, more, it's like 5 or 6, because obviously Foltest is going to boost the card as well. So it's actually a pretty big deal. Like, that's just how crazy Foltest is, that 1 tick of Foltest can play for upwards of like 9 carryover or so.
True. Look at this hand. It's every gold except Pavetta, and there's still the first half of both of the Echoes.
Yes.
This is just rude.
And there's the Omega Scopes for the carryover as well.
This is just so rude.
So the other thing that the Megascopes can do as well for the Commando deck is, we talked about before how like Vernon Roach can put 2 commandos on the board at once, which means they're quite difficult to answer with locks and things. But a Megascope also gets you out another commando, which order will be, needs to be answered. So it's a lot of the time with commandos, you can lock one, and then their scouts are playing for a lot less tempo. You get commandos stuck, but the Megascopes just give you more ways of having commandos that need to be answered. For Rolero, though, obviously playing Ramon with locks, he does have a lot of answers. I'm not sure he has enough, though, to deny that extra tempo from the scouts and things like that.
There is the lock, but as you said, there is the Peller in deck as well, and that Neuromancy is not very taxed. Not hard to imagine that he's going to have some time to use that to unlock if necessary, but between the Megascopes and the Commandos, it's going to be hard to keep everything down.
And if you look at Syndicat's deck, do you think he needs a siege at this point? Not really, right? The job's kind of already done. You can see why he's going for the consistency carryover approach with the Anero with the Megascopes.
Yeah, that's the power of being able to save the Commandos in round 1, too. Like, the thing about the Siege is it lets you click the Commandos in round 1 and not feel as bad about it, because you still have the points from the Siege, but yeah, here, don't even need it. Just Commando round 1, Commando round 2, Commando round 3. 9 to 26. Yeah, 17-point gap. The Blue Stripe Scout coming down to make another copy, and the locks are happening, but there's 2 Megascopes. There's still the Roche Merciless. There's the Peller that he has access to as well. Yeah, feels like locking these commandos is just a bit of a losing battle.
Yeah.
I don't think any more commandos are even coming out. I guess a Neuromancy for Blue Stripe Scout is 1 more.
Yeah, there's no reinforcements either in Syndicat's deck, so that's like one other threat that can often be like making more commandos that Sindikkat doesn't have access to. But he's really polarized the deck quite aggressively, skipping out on the ballistas at 5 provisions as well. He has got the Pella in at 5, but I think that's maybe his only, and the oil as well. But apart from that, just lots of 4s and lots of high-end golds. Which makes sense when you're playing a Neuromancy, for sure. Like you're going to most likely have the luxury of playing all your golds, especially when you draw like this.
Especially when you draw like that, and play Curse Scroll. It all helps.
Yeah.
There's the Avalok coming down onto the melee row. This Megascope's going to spawn another unit and make sure none of that value gets wasted. 20 to 28. Points slowly getting crept up on. As Nilfgaardian Knight gets to boost up that commando to set up for an even scarier Ivar. It's a big swing in the weights. As the Neuromancy comes down for the Blue Stripe Scout to make 1 more commando.
let's not forget that Syndicate is very well aware of the Sunset Wanderers in the hand of Rolero and might just be wanting to try and get that out of him before round 3 begins. It's also just going to be shortening the round. But let's also not forget that Rolero still has Snowdrop, still has Mage Assassin's Afan. There's a lot of points available and does decide to just slam jam the Ivar here. Now, Sindikkat can probably trade his Heatwave for the Sunset Wanderers here. Will be interesting to see if he decides to do that.
I gotta imagine that he's just trying to make round 3 as short as possible. He's got the Roche, he's got a bunch of commandos, he's got Erland. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays the Selkirk this round just to trade it off. But we will see. 40-30. Sindikkat choosing his options carefully. Could play the Selkirk, could play the Heatwave, opts for the Selkirk. Not using leader. Is that every answer gone? There's still locks available, but I guess he just doesn't care. Would rather save the leader charge so that he doesn't brick the Roche. Just accepting that he might lose his card here. He's probably losing his card here. I like it.
And I think I really like this play. He's aware the Sunset Wanderers is coming out. He just values the Heatwave over the Selkirk and says, all right, I'm convinced that you don't have like a Vikavara Novice, for example, to delay the Sunset Wanderers any further. You'd have to commit Snowdrop. And the Knickers as well.
About
this
time.
Just seems like a really good decision from Sindikkat to just play the Selkirk no leader charge. I like it a lot.
What a card. 61-35. Not even sure that he has the reach if he plays the Heatwave. How many units? Okay, the whole deck is units for the Erland. And there is still that Selkirk click as well. Pretty sure that he's able to play the Heatwave if he wants to trade that off. And I don't think Heatwave is all that valuable in this matchup. Maybe you get to tag the Snowdrop.
Yeah, Snowdrop's going to probably go to, what, like 12 points or so?
Looks like he decides to keep it.
Yeah. Syndicate kind of punished for having his hand a little bit too good there because he wanted to get rid of the Sunset Wanderers, but I mean, imagine this was just like a Siege Ladder or something. He could have traded his Siege Ladder for the same amount of points. So Selkirk certainly wasted a fair amount there, but with the amount of commandos he's got, he's still looking to be in a very strong position. And the Snowdrop draw going to be really important here, having that Snowdrop in hand. Doesn't have access to the Afan, also a Mage Assassin missing at the moment as well.
Yep. Picks up Informant, kicks the Informant, finds a lock. That could matter. There's 3 orders that he wants to use between the Mauler and the Roche. I think the Roche is coming out late enough that the Erland will have immunity, so that won't matter. But let's see. How many commandos are in the graveyard? 1, 2, 3, 4,
don't ask.
5,
I don't want to know.
6,
I don't want to
7,
know.
8.
Trying it.
There's only 8.
Only
8.
Oh, that's all right.
I mean, it could be worse. They could be pulling a full row and then siege laddering to pull another full row. Wouldn't be the first time I'd seen something like that.
Yeah, so Roach into... Roach is basically going to fill the row up, right? And the Spies as well are going to make that Roach a little bit more awkward. Obviously, the Mauler locked to the front, so ideally Syndicate would be playing Roach in the back. Does still have the option of going Siege Ladder as well, though. And pretty nice value on the Heatwave there, on the Brathans. Of course, would have found this later on onto the Snowdrop as well, but just nice and uninteractive here.
Denies the Assimilate potentially as well. Should be more points than taking it on the Snowdrop. But yeah, Rolero in a bit of an awkward spot. Still can't play this Dead Man's Tongue, and you'd really like to play the Dead Man's Tongue before using your Snowdrop or Leader, just to smooth those draws out a bit. But does decide it is time for Snowdrop. Gets clicked to make sure you don't get roached. I think you can just leave this at 6. I don't think there's anything that kills this. I don't think he's forced to use his Leader yet.
Yeah, and this is the difference between not being able to go DMT. This Blightmaker was probably going to be banished by DMT for the extra points.
Yep.
And therefore, you could have drawn a gold card here. So, really nice from Syndicate to take the Heatwave and just make things a little bit awkward. Obviously, you're not going to want to poison or lock an emissary, so Rolero just having to have not ideal sequencing as a result of the Syndicate's plays. And here does come Pavetta.
Throwing back 8 whole commandos, 16 cards in deck. I think at this point the sequencing is pretty forced. It's going to be Mauler next turn, followed by Erland once it's immune, and then you go Roche, and then you lead your Amphibious Assault for your Siege Ladder to pull out those last commandos. Because there will be a couple stuck in deck, because there's a unit both in the melee and the ranged row. But here is the Dead Man's Tongue coming out for Rolero, fixing his deck before taking a peek with his leader.
Yeah, that's one thing that is definitely nice about playing a single Blightmaker in these kinds of decks. If you need it, you've got, you know, a pretty good card. Obviously, you could play a Courier or a Novice as well for a little bit cheaper. But if you don't need it, then you at least get a couple of extra points on your Dead Man's Tongue compared to those other cards.
Yep. There's the Mauler, and now with another unit in play, decides it is time for the Morvaran. Gonna see if these Mage Assassins can maybe snipe the Mauler. Does find the Afan too, so perfect leader here, sending back 2 Mage Assassins and an Afan for, what is that, 13 points? 20-point leader? Not bad, not bad.
Quite a big snowdrop too. Unfortunately, the Mauler doesn't get sniped. Obviously, this Fangs as well, not ideal that this last Fangs was drawn. Could have had 3 extra points if he hit a Tortoise, or maybe a Lock as well would have been similar. So can't complain too much though with finding that Afan. Could have been better. And while it looks like a huge gap, we know there's a lot of points still to come for Sindikkat here.
It is a pretty big gap though. You can't take that away from it. Gonna have a redundant poison, unfortunately. Only 3 poisons. Ended up missing his I guess just Arcane Tortoise. Not a huge deal. But gonna be 50 points in play for Rolero. Let's see if Sindikkat's finisher is big enough. 20 points on the Erland. There's the commando. There's all the commandos. Oh,
I need a shower.
Amphibious Assault still in reserves. Invocation gonna play for 6. Cupbearer gonna play for 5. It's not gonna be enough. Sindikkat could pass with the Amphibious Assault in hand and it wouldn't matter. It's just not the points.
And if we reflect on what was the winning and losing moment in this game, it was the draws for Rolero in round 1. And
yeah.
Unfortunately, that is kind of what happens when you've got, you know, Curse Scroll, Defender, Foltest. It's kind of similar to Kelly decks in the past with Dash. You just need to draw the answer to the Defender, but you also need to be able to answer the Foltest. And yeah, just forced to pass Rolero after 3 cards, and didn't really have too much else he could have done, I don't think.
Yeah, it's unfortunate too, because that deck plays so many clean answers to the Defender. It's got Invo, which doesn't really need to be used on anything else. It's got the Purify. Could have just had another Poison too, since there was the Marl, but just unable to complete the Poison pair either. Just rough way for that game to go, but sometimes round 1 variance just gets you.
But I think have we seen NR winning every game we've watched today? I feel like we might have. Don't think we've seen any NR mirrors.
Think so.
So
I think
we might see a. Do you reckon we've seen a loss?
Mirror? I don't know if we saw a mirror is the thing. I don't think we saw it lose against non-NR, but I don't know if we saw an NR mirror. It has definitely been looking very dominant.
Alright, so yeah, NR through to begin things off. Again, the pattern of the day has been Northern Realms on blue coin, first time of asking, so probably expecting to see NR up next. Obviously we've got some Flurry, Koshi decks, as well as the Nilfgaard decks still in play, as well as the NR, so still a little bit of variety. No Scoia'tael, of course. Syndicate getting banned. It does feel like this weekend is a bit of a 4 faction, 5 factions, 4.
4, yeah. I haven't seen any Syndicate. Have you?
No, it's been banned every time. So no Syndicate and no Scoia'tael this weekend, by the looks of it so far.
The faction that is banned for being too good, and the faction that is banned for being too bad.
But hopefully, that's all going to change on Tuesday.
Hopefully. Looking forward to playing some Simlas Orb decks. Should be fun.
Yeah. Simlas Orb, Al's decks. Trying to... You've got...
Maybe Forest Whisperer. I like fill in a row, but I think I'd rather do it with cards that cost 5 provisions rather than trying to high roll some Alzers.
Yeah, that's fair. I still am dreaming of my double She Who Knows in ST. I never got it in NG with Letho Alza. Never happened for me, but hopefully I can get it in ST.
Yeah, Alzers are definitely a card, but you're playing for the highlight reel, right? Like, maybe you don't win all your games, but you have the best odds of getting some real sweet games.
I was convinced it was really good, like a couple of seasons ago, actually, but it's not quite happened yet. All right, NR on blue
And our
up
own
against
blue
Flurry.
against Flurry on red once again. I feel like we've seen this matchup before. But this time it is not Commandos. This is the mid-range no siege deck. Trying to play more fair stuff here. Both players playing remarkably fair decks. We got the discard package, mid-rangey stuff for Syndickat, and then we got just dual NR for Rolero. Except Gerhardt. A lot of round 3 cards in hand for Rolero. He's got the Gerhardt, he's got the Shani, he's got the Onsace, got the Selkirk. Does have that Natalis to find the Amphibious Assault, though.
Yeah, and in Devotion NR, it's quite difficult to justify mulliganing your gold cards. In other decks, if you have a very gold-heavy round 1 hand, you might take the decision to mulligan a gold because you know you're going to find it later if your deck's thinning. This deck is very risky to do that. I think there might be a single envoy for Rolero, there is, but apart from that, no way of tutoring these high-end golds. So just decides to stop it with 2 mulligans spare. Does have the Bannard student as well to try and develop that carryover for Shani later down the line.
Yep. Nice line for Rolero. Sindikkat just going to lead on that Raging Bear. Enables his Megascope in round 1, as well as sets up a graveyard for that Hjalmar later on. Next up for Rolero, still has the ability to just play another 4 provision card with that Karak Marine. That's Casting Contest available, but probably not something you want to play early. Maybe a bit later after the Bannard Student grows a bit more. Could play Amphibious Assault, though I don't know exactly how hard Rolero wants to be pushing this round. I suspect we might just be seeing that saved for round 2. Got a lot of golds if he's trying to win round 1. I feel like you end up overcommitting very quickly here. He's going to go for the Natalis. Let's see what becomes of this. Natalis Assault pulling. Maybe just a Reinforced Ballista? Yep, gets that Reinforced Ballista. No Warfares in hand, but still a solid point per turn. Damages down that Raging Bear and back over to Syndickat we go.
Yeah, firstly prioritizing the Bannard student because it's still kind of playing for 1 point per turn if you do use the order, just as is the Ballista, but it's also then that extra point of carryover as well. So still wanting to get his engines developed, especially with a hand that's this gold heavy, does make sense for Rolero to really just try and apply some pressure so he can win the round quickly and therefore keep these gold cards for round 2 or 3.
Yep. Those are the 2 approaches, right? Either you try to win the round quickly, or you just give up the round. Just depends what you think you can afford to do in the matchup, and Rolero deciding that he would rather win the round. Commits the Karak Marine, 6-24, but there are 8 points hiding in that Megascope, so more like 6-14, or 24-14. Only down 10 points here. Birna available to discard the Skirmisher, though no second discard target available in the hand means that we will probably be seeing that Birna held onto as we do see Spalblood Totem coming out here. Bannered Student at 3 damage, could combine the Bannered Student click with the Ballista to take out one of those and then re-enable with a casting contest, but more than likely we're just going to keep seeing this Bannered Student continue to tick up. Though, let's see, Marg can maybe lock one of these Bear Abominations. Not really sure what else Marg is doing in this matchup. Oh, we are seeing the Banner Student get clicked.
Let's go for it. Brave.
Brave indeed. And we are just going to see Casting Contest on the Karak Marine. Not wanting to go too tall on that Bannered Student. 33-22 after the Totem click.
Yeah, what I quite like about this play from Rolero is he's basically just saying, alright, I'm going to, instead of rezzing my Bannered Student, I've got my value from this card. And then I can just res the Marine with Shani, then maybe boost the Shani up straight away, so it gives me like a proactive Shani, and I can also try and protect my Shani maybe, so I can use her twice. So pretty interesting decision from Rolero. Obviously, that's like the only time as well you could do that 3 damage at the Banos unit. If it gets answered, you're going to struggle. And yeah, pass comes in. Do we ever see Sindikkat oblige and just go to round 3 essentially?
I don't think so. You're playing the Sunset Wanderers deck. Your opponent is playing Baron. Maybe you don't scale with round like that much, but you've got a lot of things that you want to make sure that you get to pull off. You still have that Baron you haven't developed. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Gerd. I wouldn't be too surprised to see Skirmisher. I'm not actually sure which is more valuable, either the 4 extra points that you're getting for free later on, or the ability to mini lacerate your opponent's board. I honestly think the Skirmisher is probably worth more later on.
It's a bit of a honey trap from Rolero. He's offering it. He's saying, if you want, mate, I can just go straight to round 3. I don't have any golds in my hand, you know, it's fine. But of course, he's got all the golds, as well as the Echo on Assault as well. So this will be a bit of a disaster, I think. Oh, he takes it! The honey trap!
Oh my god!
The honey trap!
Okay. I mean, sure. Why not? Let's see if we can pick up some stuff. There's the Heat Wave. There's the Skirmisher.
Oh my
Not bad.
god, the Raxus on top as well.
Good draws for both players. Nobody's complaining about their draws here. Picks up War Chariot too. Scald going back in. Picks up an Elderbear. Doesn't want that one. Megascope. It's a little stinky, but could be worse. Could be worse. Still some unknowns with the Baronet and the Sunset Wanderers as well. But looking at Rolero's hand, good lord, that is not okay.
There is actually, he has missed a gold from his hand trying to...
Has he?
Hubert.
Wow.
That's it.
That's impressive. That's impressive. Normally the downside of taking these types of passes and taking draws is you're not going to find all your golds, but Rolero defying logic and drawing all of his golds anyway. Not bad. Baronet comes down, gets both those Skirmishers, finds the Junod and a Scald. What is still missing over here? Hjalmar and Coral, as well as Morkvarg. Both Bear Witchers in the deck available to be pulled with the Quen. But gonna come down to these Scald and Sunset Wanderers draws. Probably gonna want to play the Scald after the Wanderers. Picks up a card just for the best selection of cards to get rid of. But it is on Rolero, who leads on the engine, the War Chariot. Every couple of turns, gets to apply 4 bleeding to a unit. Movement, not too relevant in this matchup, so I don't think he cares about the crew pocket. Sunset Wanderers continuing to advance.
Yeah, War Chariot kind of just working like an engine, really. But playing for 9 points straight away is not to be scoffed at, really. You can certainly see why, even outside of a siege deck, it's finding a spot, particularly as it's just a backup target for Winch. Winch can just be such a brilliant card on Shani, but it's quite risky to include the card without a good backup target, and War Chariot sort of just fits the bill there too. Yeah,
like last season the backup target was Foltest Pride. This season with the War Chariot buff, people are trying out War Chariot. I think we still see some Foltest Prides, but for the most part it is shifted to War Chariot. Oh, Sindikkat is going to be running out the Scald early. Picks up a Savage Bear. I think that's the first Savage Bear? I don't think there was one discarded yet. Yeah, just gonna send that to the graveyard. Megascope's gonna hopefully have a target with the Hernkaduk, though. Rolero, plenty of duels to deny that.
Yeah, just to touch back on the War Chariot as well. Instead of, we've seen lots of people go City Guard, for example, in the past, to have that movement to answer a defender. This way you've got an answer to defender, but also, as you can see, it is an engine, essentially, outside of those other rounds. So, yeah, really cool to see this card. And there is Hubert, all golds available. The only bronze played by Rolero this round is going to be from his Gerhardt, his Assault, and this Marine that's just been played from Shani. It's just going to be gold after gold apart from those.
Gold after gold. That sounds really good. I want to play gold after gold. There we go. Gerd coming down a little bit early, just trying to pass the turns until Sunset Wanderers comes out. One more turn to go. This does enable the Junod, which can take out the War Chariot if that doesn't get buffed up. And a couple options to buff it up. Could take the early Gerhardt for Pact, could take Amphibious Assault into Karak Marine. We'll see if Rolero here wants to respect the Junod, or if he's just going to let it happen. Wouldn't be too surprised either way. But 24 to 20, 7 to 6 cards. Rolero a little bit ahead here, but I mean, Normally this is where I'd say, but card quality might say otherwise, but Rolero's card quality is also pretty sick. We do see the Carrack Marine come down, keep that War Chariot alive, doesn't let the Junod kill that, wants to get more bleeding off. Sunset Wanderers continues to advance. Gotta play one more card before he gets to see what his full round 3 hand is. Still a little bit off of adrenaline from either the Quen or the Heron Kaduk. Heatwave, not quite finding its optimal target, though. I don't know, maybe just taking that on the Shani isn't too unreasonable if you think that's going to be going off. And that is, ooh, gonna go after the War Chariot. So lets the Shani get that second res off potentially as Sunset Wanderers draws a Bear Witcher just in time to be played as that is now on adrenaline.
There is still another Bear Witcher available for the Quen as well for Sindikkat, so...
Not Brickin this time.
We know how good Sunset Wanderers is, but there's a severe problem with it in Skellige. Okay, it's got amazing synergy with the discard package, but it's the only card that goes green, and that's probably why this Baron is just more of an inclusion this season for this NR deck than previously.
Yeah, Baron in this NR deck, Axie in the Kostra decks. Sunset Wanderers is a big reason why there's an uptick in those cards being played for sure. We got Bear Witcher coming down now that it's on adrenaline. 28 to 27 gives him a Megascope target. Let's see if Rolero is just going to take this out though. Trying to deny those Megascopes. Does have plenty of duels. Selkirk, Onsace, and Varaxis all removal, and not really a matchup where removal is all that taxed. Can't imagine you're doing much better than denying some Megascopes. He's thinking about it though. Oh, just gonna go for the Marg. Okay. Wants to keep his options
I think
open.
it's the play. I think it's the play I would make trying that, but I think you found the right line there, right? I think definitely going for the denying of the Megascopes. Obviously, there's still Kadooch available to get like another Bear Witcher, but as you say, you're not really going to be getting too much more value off of these dual cards. I guess Rolero just deciding he's just going to try and kill like 8-point cards instead.
Yeah, it sort of makes sense, right? Like, you don't know that he's going to have the Megascope. I think there's only one left. One was played in round 1. But, yeah, I don't know. Just see like the duels aren't doing too much else, and playing around the Megascope is fairly free, especially since you're denying Heron Kaduk value, too, by killing off the 5. But now we see the Selkirk. Decides doesn't want to hold on to that anymore. Commits to taking this duel. Kills off, I imagine, the Gird? He didn't do it last turn. Yeah, double charge, take out the Gird. Still sits on that Morg order as there is nothing to lock, and I'm pretty sure there will be nothing to lock. Leader charge coming out. I believe just took the damage on that Baron, so sets up the Junod nicely.
Yeah, and while it looks like there's a big gap, the Megascope as well, ready to tick for that 8 points, and there are still 2 leader charges available for Sindikkat. Couldn't really ask for a better final 3 cards to play either. So, I mean, same could be said for Rolero as well. And there is the Bear Witcher to start things off. 3 points behind Sindikkat, and he's a whole card down.
Leader's a little bit more valuable though. Leader plays for 6 instead of 3 or instead of 2. But yeah, 33, 36, Marg, no good lock. Shani is gonna be going off here in a couple of turns. Believe that is just rezzing a bannered student. Don't think there's time to click on it unless the Inspired Zeal Charge gets saved. Which I guess it could. Don't lose a whole lot. But
Sindikkat is just waiting for some bronze cards to be played by Rolero, and they are not coming. He's in disbelief. He's scratching his eyes. Where are the bronze cards, he asks. There are no bronze cards here, not in this deck.
They're in the deck. They're just not in the hands. Yeah. Here come the leader charges. Does get the damage onto the Marg. Not sure why he wanted to kill that Marg so much. It was the same value as just killing the Baron, right? Was it 5?
I guess he was trying to get the Shani down, just high roll.
Oh, true.
Which is probably... Yeah. I mean,
yeah, the odds seem low, but I guess you might as well try if you're this far behind.
Yeah.
Here we go. Gerhardt packed 34 to 44. Quen barely gets ahead, but Anse, Shawnee, leader charge. Looks to be plenty of points here, as Rolero should be taking this game, spare a meteor crashing into Syndicat's computer. Or Rolero's computer.
Yeah, and Northern Realms stays winning.
Stays winning.
Yeah, pretty cool to see Northern Realms putting in the work. Really interesting line of play from Rolero. We talked about his mulligans in round 1, about how kind of punished for kicking these gold cards and just managed to sort of trick Sindikkat into taking that early pass when he just had the world's most stacked hand. And yeah, very well played from Rolero. He tried his luck. He offered Sindikkat, said, "Look, mate, you can just pass. It's all right." And Sindikkat decided that he had to go for it. And to be fair to Sindikkat, if Rolero's hand was bad, this could have been a winning line for him. So.
Yeah, true. But unfortunately, it was not. The hand that not only was strong already, but he then continued to draw the best possible cards back to back to back. But it's just how it is sometimes. Sometimes your opponent draws golds, you end up with a couple missing, and you look a little silly. But game number 3 should be getting started shortly as the invites have come out. But yeah, so we talked about all the factions except Syndicate and Neutral for the expansion. Do you have any thoughts on the neutral card, Dwim?
It's definitely cool. It's not Megascope Teleportation, where I'm going to be trying to play it in as many decks as I possibly can. But it's still pretty damn cool. Like, you're going to use it in some specific decks, I think. I feel like maybe at 4 provisions, if it was just weaker, like had less power, this kind of ability, you would see it more often. I do think it's just going to be very specific decks at 5 provisions that can play this card, though.
It's like only location decks that would consider it, right? Like, I don't think the text with scenario is going to matter at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything like Masquerade Ball is the only one where you're really thinking the 3rd chapter would be so good, but obviously it's going to break Devotion, which kind of just means you're not
so many aristocrats.
Yeah.
Though I guess notably that deck does already play its location and its scenario, so maybe if it's playing it because of the location for some reason, you'll have the opportunity to maybe sometimes pivot and do it on the scenario, but just seems kind of unlikely.
Yeah, you can play it with Colgrim, for example, as well. That's like one place you could see it. I think the hideout for Syndicate with the poison is probably the most powerful location that you can reuse.
I think the Clog is actually the most powerful.
Yeah, I could see that.
What's the opposite of diminishing returns? Because that's what you get with Clog. The more Clog you have, the better it becomes.
Yeah. Especially, like, 1 Clog can be the difference between your opponent having a 3-point card in their hand and their best gold, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes all you need is that 1 extra Clog.
The difference between clogging them 4 times and clogging them 5 times, the difference between them drawing any cards in the next round.
Mm-hmm.
But here we go into game number 3. Sindikkat on Force of Nature. Rolero with the tactical decision. Choosing to queue Force of Nature on blue here into Syndicate. Into a...
Yeah, and this...
into poison
mid-rangey deck with the locks. Definitely going to be good for answering those cost Gs, that's for sure. And is there a caretaker for Sindikkat? I believe it's a defender. It is.
Yeah.
Does have the Aguara though as an unlock.
Gonna kick the Archospore, knowing that with all of the locks available for Rolero, not too likely to be able to get that Death Wish off. Also, no consumes in hand at all. So just kicking a potential brick as he leads on in Dragolarva. Pretty much the ideal start for this Force of Nature deck. As we head over to Rolero. Duchess Informant available to just copy these up. That is what we're seeing. Also the ideal start for Rolero. Pretty much the ideal start for any faction, to just lead on in Dragolarva. That's what I want to do when I'm playing any faction.
Sometimes as monsters, you can actually mulligan your Larvas against decks that are playing Brathans and Informants to deny this. I think the good news for Sindikkat is that there isn't the Brathans to sort of follow suit on this as well. Because otherwise things could look a little bit sticky. Obviously, this deck not playing Coup either. That's where things get really, really disgusting. And I think, therefore, Sindikkat, it's worth it for him to play the Lava from hand and not mulligan it. He still wants to play this card. I think as soon as you're looking at Coup Vigo as well, Brathens, that's when you can really just consider mulliganing the lava altogether.
Yeah, the coup interaction a little bit less brutal than it used to be when
Definitely.
the larvas had 3 power, but still pretty rough even when coup is just making an informant, even when you're not killing the
Especially
larva.
some decks were playing Remedy as well, right? So they would coup they'd coup your lava, and then they could remedy that one as well. And then Formant, Brathens, it all got very, very sticky quite quickly.
Yeah, sometimes Nilfgaard just feels like they're playing a better version of your deck. Here we got the Maxi coming down, I think. Brothen. Oh, no. Blightmaker coming down. There's no Maxi. Every time the deck comes up, I just assume that it's Maxi.
Yes, I did the same.
Manages to hit the 1-point unit instead of the armor, so not too bad there. Looks like the lamp is getting clicked. Not quite enough to have Sabbath, though. I wonder if he's going to play it just for the Thrive curve anyway. It's a bit aggressive against the deck with so many locks.
Yeah, I think you've probably just got to take the L on the Thrive, but then you're at least going to get the 2 points back from the Witch Apprentice ticking.
Yep, and we do see the Kikimora worker coming down. 26 to 15 establishes the Sabbath. Avalok available to potentially tick down the armor. Got 2 poisons as well. But, yeah, gotta see what Rolero wants to commit into this round. Locks, all obviously pretty valuable later on. Being able to lock Koshjes, being able to lock She Who Knows, being able to lock even just Witch Apprentices, pretty big deal. Gonna want to carefully deploy those. Poisons as well, obviously tall removal, very good against these monsters decks that are trying to trigger Thrive. They play a lot of stuff that goes tall, as well as potentially being able to answer Koshjes with the Marl.
I have to confess, the Maxi has once again evaded me. I have not paid attention to the Maxi situation, so...
Same. That's why I was so paranoid for it when Rolero was doing it, because I thought I had just missed it.
So Koshji, who knows what the situation is, but we'll find out. I'm sure the Twitch chat will know if it was a shuffle or not. So you guys, for the Maxi information, if you're not sure, Twitch chat's got you covered, I'm sure. And
Yep.
pretty close game, 5 points in it. The Ratcatcheress finally entering the board and still got that double Witch Apprentice, and basically knowing that there's another lock, trying to bait the lock on a worse engine like the Lava or like the Ratcatcheress here.
Yep. We do see that first Ramen lock coming down to lock one of his larvas before it keeps growing. And now poisons onto the Ratcatcheress, so... starting to commit some real resources as Syndicate just passes. Anything takes for Rolero, but probably just gonna see... probably the Sacrifice of the Empire? Gotta imagine everything else is more valuable.
You have an invo it?
Maybe? It's a 9. I feel like Invo does get better. Like, you can Invo maybe She Who Knows and try to get him that way.
Especially with the leader being able to replay stuff. But yeah, I mean, this is well played from both players, I think. Getting to keep the Sunset Wanderers, really, really nice as Nilfgaard. And I think also you're making some pretty good trades there as monsters. You're probably hoping to get a slightly better card than the Fangs. But, I mean, you can't really complain too much. There's also an Afan and Mage Assassin in hand now for NG, which is a good thing with this leader, of course. These are cards that you are going to want in hand, but you also want to make sure you've got a playable hand, so we could see them being mulligan. The lock actually going.
Wow. And then Tortoise going. Picks up Dead Man's Tongue. That's big. That's not a card you want to have stuck. Okay, Wanderers advances, and it is on Rolero. How does he want to push this round? Going to lead on the Ardfane Tortoise as the round goes back to Sindikkat. Bruxa for the Thrive unit, going to be coming out immediately. Still has a bunch of cards that he doesn't mind developing into this round. Witch Apprentice, more of a round 2 card than a round 3 card. She Who Knows obviously wants to come down in round 2, though it's going to be hard to make that stick without access to the Defender. Yeah, 2 Crones. Has not played the Consume Crone yet, so just an 8 followed by a 10. Gankane. Ooh, Rolero just going to go to the long round 3. Not worried about trying to get the thinning with the Dead Man's Tongue. Instead, just valuing, making sure that he gets to keep his card. Doesn't want to let Sindikkat deploy the She Who Knows at all.
Yeah, it's a really nice pass from Rolero, and obviously feeling confident enough with his locks, with his morale, his invo that he can answer the Koshi. Obviously, the shorter the round, the scarier the Koshi, and the flipping Snowdrop and Ivar as well. Like, wow,
right.
these cards are going to be playing for a lot of points. The longer the round, you could argue the better the Ivar too. Finding the lock, probably going to be invoing the defender, if not poisoning it.
For sure.
I think still looking no major assassins left. I think one major assassin was sent out earlier, so just the Afan major assassin plus one other card going to be put back with leader. Obviously with Snowdrop and leader, it does make sense to be quite aggressive with mulligans to just cycle your deck and make sure you find the golds. Cupbearer and Brathens being the 2 golds remaining in the deck for Rolero.
Yep. Sindikkat picking up all the crones, gonna lead on the consume crone. The crone without too much utility in the matchup. Could potentially use it to deny poisons, but then you start going really tall into Ivar and other poisons and invocation. It's just better to play this as a 6 and be happy about it, that it's boosting up your other crones' damage potential and boost potential.
And I know you're not a big fan of She Who Knows, but this is what I love to see. The She Who Knows in round 3, playing for that sweet, sweet round 4 carryover. Everyone loves a bit of round 4 carryover.
I feel like that's the most common mode on She Who Knows, aside from dying in round 1. But, yeah. Love to see it. Love to see it. Here we got Avalok coming down. Applies the frost to the front row. There's 6 points in the row. Not gonna lose any value. You do want to get this down before the Koshche is, as those larvas can make the weather a little bit awkward. Card's not getting any better than this.
Yeah, it's also just like putting in early work to deny the Sabbath as well, right? Just trying to make it more difficult for the Witch Apprentice to start ticking along. Although having said that, there is some merit to just trying to let your opponent start early with the Witch Apprentice for a better Ivar. But you're normally just going to get a decent Ivar on like a Gankien or She Who Knows, whatever it might be.
Couple of options available for Rolero here. Could go for the Marl Poison, or could just go for the Invocation. I think I really like going for the Invocation instead, because you can play the Marl later after the, like in the middle of the Koshche turns, so that the Heat Wave has to be played late. Though I don't even know if the Heat Wave is going to go on the Marl, to be honest. But yeah, okay. Just going to run out the Marl here. Hold on to the Invocation instead. Doesn't want to draw the Cave Troll, possibly. Does lose a bit of points to the Frostier, but...
Yeah, I always feel like the Cave Troll would be a nice card to have, just because you can then put like your Snowdrop behind it, for example.
Yeah.
I guess it becomes a little bit awkward, because you want a Snowdrop before your Sunset Wanderers goes through, so I can see the logic, but there's definitely a couple of options there, deciding instead of going for the morale.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised too, but it's the line that he chose, and it's a fine line. 11 to 11, damage Crone, not able to take out this Marl. Maybe that was the consideration. Maybe he just knows that now the only thing that is going to answer this Marl right now is the Heat Wave. He doesn't have time to get the boost Crone down to slow that to get the 6 damage going. And just going to consume the Cave Troll.
Hated by the follow-up poison threat. Of course, there's a Cupbearer remaining. Rolero could have got access to that with Snowdrop, but it's definitely not guaranteed to be in there straight away. And obviously the armor was going to tank a bit of damage, and this just plays into Ivar quite strongly. Now, it does look like Sunset Wanderers is going to be thinned slightly prematurely as well.
It's just 2 points on Snowdrop. It's fine.
Well, it's also like the 2 points potentially though that you give the Sunset Wanderers, right? Also with Leader. Yeah. So it works out on 2 on Snowdrop, but then also like the Sunset Wanderers in theory could be like, what, 3 or 4 points more?
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of cards on top of that you want to be keeping as well. Makes sense. I'm not used to Sunset Wanderers points actually mattering. I'm used to it always getting answered, but in this matchup, yeah.
Uh-oh. I sense a triggered chat trying to look at this Crone placement from Sindikkat. Hang your head in shame. I do it all the time. It's fine.
Yeah, this is like the default Crone placement for me.
I agree.
It's weird to see them in order.
I also don't have a premium Brewis, and it really triggers my chat. The other two are moving, and Brewis isn't.
Yeah, it's the same here.
Part of the fun, right? I mean, Gankian's designed to trigger Twitch chat anyway, because it has to go in between them.
True. 25 to 15. Here comes the Viper Adept. 4 targets to 9. No danger of this getting shut off. Just a nice 4 provision card. Gonna be growing 6 more times. Nice 11 for 4. Now that all the answers are gone, free to get that deployed. Still not on Sabbath for the Witch Apprentice. Can get that in a couple turns, but starting to overlap with the Koshchei a bit. If you don't play the Witch Apprentice now, yeah, like it's off Sabbath, but if you don't play it now, you got Corinthier that has to come out next turn, you got Koshchei the turn after that. Might as well play it now or it's just not going to be good at all because of your other sequence obligations.
Really cool to see the impact Nilf Knight is having in these decks as an inclusion. Just 5 provisions, and obviously with Ivar being so good against things like Sunset Wanderers that are in the meta, the inclusion of a Nilfgaardian Knight definitely looking like a strong play here.
Yeah, just the extra couple points on the Ivar, as well as being a potential proactive option as well. Gonna go leader before the Morvran. Just gonna put back some of his bad cards before deciding which good cards he wants to keep. Does mean that he's going to see 1 fewer card with the Snowdrop, as one of these cards does have to... Oh, but 2 cards in deck, so he sees everything anyway. Cool. It all works out.
Could have also decided to float the Snowdrop maybe, and then invo something and draw into that, but doesn't decide to do that and instead just goes for the Cupbearer. It's going to get a couple of points off Assimilate when combined with Brathon. So.
Yep. Here's the Corinthier. First Koshchei out. Can delay the Ivar 1 turn.
Yeah, and it's surprising that there's no locks available, right, for Rolero. I actually think we might have seen one of the locks banish with DMT. I suppose that's because of the Aguara, and there's also a Queen of the Night, but they're just not been drawn by Sindikkat. So that does make a lot of sense that he's not valued the locks here with the Purify options available for Sindikkat.
Yeah, the way the deck's lined up, it doesn't look like the locks are going to do all that much in round 3, but the way the hand's lined up, the locks would have been pretty good. Here we see the Nilf Knight coming down, trying to set up for a bigger Ivar, going to let this Koshchei run wild for a bit.
Yep,
that's always scary.
Playing for 10 points here, obviously 8 points of body, and then the 2 boost, which looks like it's just 6 points, but of course with Ivar, those 2 boosts are just going straight to you.
He's almost caught up already. 56 to 66. 2 Koshcheis in play. This has to be the Ivar turn, so there's going to be 1 more turn with these Koshcheis. Ivar is big, but it's not Koshchei big. Here comes Boost Crone.
Yeah,
to maximize
all the cards you need to trigger the Thrives on every single Insectoid. Both Koshcheis are getting triggered every time, and every single Lava. The Witch Apprentice still ticking along as well. Just 5 points in it, but Rolero does have an extra card.
Yep, here's the Brothons. Just gonna go for Claw. Not breaking up the Relic Pocket, but makes a Witch Apprentice of his own. So this turn can be the Gankane, which puts him to 8 units in the row, so he'll still be able to deploy the She Who Knows, no problems.
Yeah, another Spy would have been really quite huge for Rolero here. It would have bricked, I do believe, Syndicat's hand, but he doesn't have that. Unfortunately, this Cupbearer is just not doing the most here.
Yeah, needing to use the Marl instead of being able to purify the defender. Leads it with an extra poison here. 99 to 96, but this Gankane is playing for so many points! Triggering all the Thrives? 114, this Invo's playing for 12, but that's a 17-point gap.
3 points of engine value as well, but it's not going to be enough. Only 2 points in it. Wow.
Real close, but Koshchei pulling it out in the end there for Sindikkat. There are a lot of answers, but the sequencing with the Ivar really looking sad that game.
Yeah, I also think it's this Invo decision maybe with the Cave Troll, right?
Yeah.
Would that have made a difference? I wonder. Like the cards that were drawn instead, like this Cupbearer, for example, was stuck near the bottom of the deck. Didn't really do too much. A Cave Troll would have protected one of your tool cards from the Heatwave, maybe, or even your morale, right? You could have protected your morale as well. Morale then would have gone through.
There's also a line to take in early Ivar before Frost damaged the
Yeah.
Brewis down to 9. And I think that was the same value that he ended up getting for the Ivar, but in exchange he gave his opponent more cost returns. I wonder if there was something he could have done there. Just take the Ivar earlier and then he'd be able to invo rather than be pressured. And this does make the Nilf Knight a little bit worse too, but maybe you just change how you put your cards back.
Yeah, and I was complimenting the Nilf Knight, but really the sequencing was very forced with the Ivar. You want to play the Nilf Knight, and you need to play the Ivar before the Adrenaline kicks in. So those sort of two cards that were force your sequencing, and that's what's very cool about the Adrenaline. Adrenaline is a key word that can really just screw you over. We actually saw it a little bit earlier on with Gerd as well, in a similar situation against Koshti, where you really want to answer the Koshti, but you also want to play your Adrenaline cards for their full value.
Mm-hmm. Well,
all right. That's a cool
Sindikkat
game.
Currently up a game going into game 4. He's got Reckless Flurry. Rolero's got Force of Nature and Tactical Decision. Rolero going to be on blue coin this game, I believe. With, I don't know. We'll see what he chooses to bring. In the spot previously, we've seen Force of Nature brought here. But, let's see if Rolero has the same idea. I guess there wasn't Nilfgaard in the lineup as well.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of Force of Natures on blue. And we do see it again.
Alright, so Sindikkat, he's on red coin with his Flurry, the coin he'd prefer to be on. He's going to be, obviously if he's winning this, he is through. He's already beaten Shaggy. Remember, both these guys have won all their games so far, so I believe this is going to be the winner's bracket semi-final, if I'm not mistaken, tomorrow, the winner of this. Being the winner's
Your
bracket
guess is as good as mine.
I do believe.
Is there
three? This is the third round, right? There was 16 players, so.
Is there a link to the bracket anywhere, or are we just like guessing?
I'm not sure if it's public just because of the delay.
Okay, fair enough.
Not 100% sure. I probably could have looked at some point though. It could have been a good idea, seeing as you're doing all the OBS stuff, right?
I didn't even see a link to it. I couldn't find it anywhere, but I might have just
I've got a
looked
feeling it might not be public. I'm not certain though. But Rolero opening up with a lava. Wow, didn't see that one coming.
Surprise, surprise. Oh, the ideal start once again. Was this list playing 2 larvas? Yeah, this one's playing 2 larvas. So not playing the Queen of the Night. It does have that Elder Bear that you love so much.
Ooh, yes. It's
it.
definitely worse than the Brooks from round 1. That you want the Brooks here. But in that round 3, the Elder Bear sometimes can just be the difference, particularly if it just goes a bit weird and you end up in a particularly short round 3 and just having like lots of cards that don't trigger your Koshti can be a bit of a stinker. So I think 1 Brooks or 1 Elder Bear is pretty reasonable.
Yep, that's why you play 1 and 1. Play 1 in round 1. Play well, leave 1 in the deck forever, but still. Sometimes play 1 in round 3. Oh, there's the Great Sword coming down. No need to protect it, as once again, this Force of Nature deck does not play a whole lot of removal. No way to take out this Great Sword efficiently. Is there even... what is in this list?
There's a Dora Grey in this one.
Yeah, okay. Dora Grey here. No Heat Wave in this list, instead opting for their Axie? Yeah, Axie.
Yeah, definitely nice for Sindikkat to have that 10 points removal with his Hjalmar ready for the future rounds. Perfect for She Who Knows, of course. Rolero does also... does he play Defender? Doesn't play Defender. So he's gone for Sunset Wanderers instead. Now, I think that's going to make quite a big difference to this matchup. We've seen the Defender be a problem for these Skellige players.
Mm-hmm.
No Defender, I feel like, shifts the odds in the favor of Rolero in this matchup, I would say.
Yeah, I think so as well. I feel like that was we talked about this a little bit earlier, but Defender feels like the thing that really shifts this matchup away, just having another must-answer threat in those provision slots.
Yeah, shifts it in Syndicat's favor, I beg your pardon. So
yeah.
The Skellige player, just being able to use your Heat Wave on other things that isn't a Defender often feels good. You don't really have a clean Purify in Skellige. Gremist, not something you're going to want to be playing, particularly without Alchemy cards. And no Moondust, of course, without Magic.
Yep. Here we see Sindikkat given over round control to Rolero. Does not want to fight into this larva Witch Apprentice start. A little bit too much engine value going on over there. Let's see. Picks up the Axie. Picks up another Witch Apprentice.
Guard cards for SK as well. Double Skirm and Morkvarg. Drawing the Totem too. No Kosh. Oh, there is Koshi in hand as well, which is, 90% of what you need. If you don't draw the Koshi in hand, this deck falls apart. So,
Yep.
if you draw the cards, it could be one of the best decks in the game.
For sure. Corinthia, Kostya, She Who Knows, and Neuromancy all in hand. Sunset Wanderers continue to crawl to the other side of the hand. Let's see what's missing. We got 2 Crones in the deck and a Maxi. Not bad. Oh, and a Dragalarva. You gotta count that as a gold, too.
Yeah, and then on the side of Skellige, still looking for the Coral, which is obviously a card you do want to play before your other discards, and Quen, Junod, Axie all in the deck as well as a couple of Savage Bears.
Do you ever just a Neuromancy for Larva here? Is that what we're seeing? I think that's what we're seeing. Oh no, just going for Arcaspore. Gives something to do with the Consume Crone. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, you can get to Sabbath quite quickly with the Arch Spore as well, as it is like 8 points once you consume it.
Indeed. Sindikkat
Obviously.
can't quite play Birna yet. Looks like he's playing the Hernkaduk. Just finding some proactivity. It's gonna be, looks like going for the Quartermaster. Holding those points in reserve.
And that great sword play from Sindikkat in round 1 as well, showing why he's gone for it with those 2 great swords ready and waiting in the graveyard for Hjalmar to answer She Who Knows. And that's just, again, another example of why the Defender helps this matchup. If you're the Monsters player, you can play your Defender and then your She Who Knows. I feel like it's very greedy to play She Who Knows without the Defender, to be completely honest with you. Yeah. I think if you're not bothering with Defender, I wouldn't bother with She Who Knows, because you're really trying to overload the Heat Wave.
I completely agree. A bit surprised
very greedy.
Didn't see Daragore come out, but I guess you always get to lock one of the Bear Abominations, I suppose. And yeah, the Quartermaster not doing anything exciting, just going to damage that Gird down. So only getting 2 points out of the orders. All works out there. 14 to 13, Sindikkat a little bit ahead, but Rolero quickly on his way to Sabbath. Few turns away from Sunset Wanderers for both players. No viable locks available for Rolero. It's just going to go to the 10 card round 3.
Wow.
Not something you see the Kostya deck do very often, but I guess with so much removal available, just wants to play in Dragalarvas and try to engine his way in a matchup where he doesn't expect his Kostyas to live.
Yeah, and it's an interesting decision. He's just essentially accepting his She Who Knows isn't going to get any carryover. He's probably going to lose a card. And it's a really, really interesting play. The more I think about it, the more I love it. It's quite an unintuitive play. Like, you've got She Who Knows, you play the carryover, right? You just do. But yeah, why not? Why not just go in on even cards? You know your opponent's playing a lot of removal, so over swarming probably isn't too much of an issue. Yeah, you're probably just winning the game as well if you're over swarming. So
yeah, and you know your She Who Knows isn't going to live anyway, so there's not a whole lot of point in playing it. Just play your 10 for 13 proudly in round 3.
At least it's triggering the thrives, right?
At least it's triggering the thrives, exactly. 2 less points, 1 more prov than an old spear tip. Just what you want to be playing.
Totem open up from Sindikkat. He has also got that potentially 4 points to carry over with the Kadooch as well. Coral has also been drawn and did manage to keep double Skirm and Morkvarg in hand. So Sunset Wanderers, of course, are also going to be benefiting from the discards, drawing more cards, meaning Sunset Wanderers is going to go further to the left in the hand and just increase in points.
There's an Axie, who cares? It's not doing anything.
Very true.
Pretty sure both these Wanderers just ones. But yep, so Wispus and then Dragalarva end up missing for Rolero. I wonder if they'll... there's 3 leader charges. I was gonna say, I wonder if the Larva is ever worth more points than the final Wispus. But I guess with leader available to take those out, probably not. Here we go.
Alright, Sindikkat. His burner comes in. Coral on the board. Still looking for Quen. Still looking for Junod. That is not Quen. That is not Junod either.
Rough. Still does have two ways to deal with cost chase though, between the Heat Wave and the Hjalmar, and with no defender in the deck, is not taxed on one of those. So missing Junod, while unfortunate, not necessarily the end of the world here. A cost chase still won't be walking.
Sunset Wanderers does mean that one more card will be drawn to Sindikkat. Gwen and the Junod are options. There's also a Scald that could be drawn, which of course then you could use that to draw into it still, but certainly Sindikkat going to be hoping to see, ideally the Quen. It's going to be a couple more points, but at the very least the Junod.
There's the activating Bear Abomination mode on Raging Bear being used. No need to click on that totem when you can just play some Raging Bears. This is the Wanderer turn for Rolero. It does have that Relic Pocket available for Gankane. Wonder if that's what we do. I mean, you could just say you want the 9 later on for Thrive Curve, but I don't think that matters. It's either that or the Kikimore Worker this turn, right? Yeah, decides to go for the Gankane, plays it for 9. Wanderers pops out, draws Witch Apprentice. That's pretty good, actually. Not enough removal for everything. The Axie is going to be used on the Wanderers. The Heatwave and the Hjalmar probably want to be used on Koshchei's. So, yeah, it's going to come down to whether or not the Sunset Wanderers can find Junod access. If he wants to answer everything.
Yeah, the Witch Apprentice seems like the best draw at this moment in time. Here we go. The Megascope played. What will the Sunset Wanderers draw? We're looking for the Quen. We're looking for the...
Ooh, the best one! The best
Maximum points. Not punished for not playing Maxi. Okay, you could argue 3 points lost because you're Quenning into Junod as opposed to a Bear Witcher. But in fact, with the Kaduch on the board, and doesn't really like there's many other options, it only seems like a point really wasted. If
better
Junod
than
was in hand compared to the Bear Witcher.
Better than not having access to the Junod.
Definitely.
In a lot of ways, Junod is... This matchup is in a lot of ways the reason you play Junod. The card is real important for being an efficient answer to Koshchei. Very few cards in the game trade well with the card, but Junod is one of the ones that don't look too embarrassing. Here we got Hjalmar coming down. Gonna use that to take out the Witch Apprentice. Raging Bear. So what do we got here? There's no board space problem, right? Only 4 more units coming out. Plenty of space.
I think you can see a big example as well of why on earth are you playing Axie over Heatwave. That seems bizarre. Heatwave's great. Well, look at this Axie now compared to a Heatwave. We've talked already about how you don't want to use that Heatwave when your Koshchei's ticking, but your Axie is doing something a little bit different. It's a tool punish while also triggering all the Thrive cards, including, of course, that all-important Thrive tick on the Koshchei.
It's also just more points here. Like, it's better to have Axie for Sunset Wanderers than the Heatwave Sunset Wanderers. Just a solid 4 points better. 61 to 59 here.
Oh, there is a bloody Bear Witcher. I've been talking nonsense the whole time. So there was a Bear Witcher option off Quen, but of course the Junod is going to be what's taken.
Yeah, the Junod is just worth more, so you're going to take it. Nice score for Sindikkat. 56 for Rolero.
Does still have the full leader available as well, so could try and snipe the Koshchei, but
that's gotta be nonsense. There's no way.
Not the approach. Sometimes you just have to believe.
I never believe. Not that much.
Obviously,
not on these odds.
Does have that option if he's not feeling confident, but just feeling confident enough in his hand that the Heatwave on the Koshchei will be enough. He doesn't need to high roll, which of course, if he was feeling up against it, that would be an option. And there comes the Axie, triggering 2 Thrives, hitting the Sunset Wanderers, so playing for what, 7 points more, 6 points more, I guess, than a Heatwave.
Yeah, really nice, really nice. Axie coming out for Sindikkat as well. Here comes the leader. Interesting that he's doing this now? What's the reason to do this now?
Maybe he kills the lavas. I don't know.
Oh, God. But maybe he, like, enables Thrives.
True.
I don't know. I guess the odds are pretty unlikely. Anything that wouldn't have triggered Thrive would have come out of the hand already, but... Yeah,
6 point
really
game. It's a Bear Witcher versus a Kikimore Worker. There's some Thrive, but there's also a Kaduch as well. So this Bear Witcher is playing for 10 points, essentially. Bear Witcher comes in, the couch is clicked, and it's a 16-point game. Just not going to be enough.
Yeah, you don't need to print it this close. We can all see the scoreboard.
I tried.
Oh, and there it is. Sindikkat takes the game and takes the series.
Yeah, Sindikkat, really impressive performance. Both games we've just cast him back-to-back. First of all, beating Shaggy, now beating Rolero. But that means he is into what I think is the winners bracket semi-final tomorrow. He's not lost a game. So TLG Invitational, of course, continuing tomorrow. 3 series today. More series tomorrow to look forward to. And Sindikkat has been on a rampage. He's not been messing around.
Not at all, not at all. Quick shout out to our sponsor, Advanced GG, sponsoring this event. Type !Advanced for your free sample of their supplements. I believe they do caffeinated and uncaffeinated supplements. Gamer fuel, I think they like to call it. But
yeah, big shout out to Advance for sponsoring TLG Invitational. Check them out. There's like a discount code as well for the Invitational, so get on that. They've also got really cool cups. I can't show you mine because mine's yellow and I have a green screen. But I was using my Advanced GG cup all of last year. When I was teaching, I was carrying it around as like my little water bottle. So I use it for the gym as well. So yeah, really cool cups. I would actually very much recommend those too. Which I believe you can get as part of the deal when you get some stuff from them.
Interesting. Well, that is going to be it for us tonight. I believe that is all the games that we are casting. Anything you want to shout out before we go? Anything you want to plug?
Well, my Twitch is I might actually go live trying that. Do you mind if I?
Oh yeah, sure. You can be post.
Go live. I think I'm going to stream for like a couple hours because I haven't streamed today. So
sounds good. Let me know when you're up.
Cool. I'll just start my stream now. Here. Yeah, I'm on Twitch and YouTube as well. I need to try and get like the specimen name on YouTube now, but I think that might be more of a struggle than on Twitch, I have to say.
I think you could just change it. I don't think you have to do anything.
Really?
Ooh. Yeah, because multiple people can have the same name. You can't get like the URL, but you can get the identifier.
Interesting.
I think.
I have to go for it. Just to make it consistent. I think I'm gonna play some Northern Realms. Yeah. Some of this dual kind of decks looks pretty fun. Yeah, thanks to TryNet for having me.
Yeah.
We're going to be streaming doing it tomorrow as well. I think we're on my channel tomorrow, so hope to see everyone there. And yeah, thanks for having me, TryNet. It's been a pleasure. It
was a great cast. Hope everyone watching enjoyed. Are you live now?
Yes, I've just gone live.
Okay, and it's Specimen, right? Not Specimen Gwent?
Yeah, just Specimen. I feel a bit cheeky, but it's got to be done, right? Why not?
You gotta go on the grind, right? Plug what you can plug. But yeah, see you guys tomorrow. See Speci tomorrow, and have a good one.
Nice one. Thanks for having me, mate. Cheers.
Yep. Host should be through.